Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our Good Friday Tenebrae service, Grieving over Darkness and Reflecting on Redemption. I'd like to ask you to silence your cell phones when you get a chance. I will say a prayer, and then I would ask you to join me in our call to worship. After the prelude. Join me in the call to worship. O God, we trust you to be with us.
As we hear your story and images flash through our minds.
Pictures of a garden, soldiers, swords, fire in the courtyard.
Eyes of headquarters, a crown of thorns, a hill of crosses.
The thud of a hammer, disciples, and more soldiers. Guide us, Lord, on this difficult journey,
Strengthen our commitment to follow you.
so that out of this darkness,
We may become people of your light.
amen. Would you turn in your hymnals to page 102? We'll stand for this one, and we will remain seated for the rest of the hymns in the evening. Please stand. Where you
Thank
Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he became 12, they went up there according to the custom of the feast. And as they were returning after spending the full number of days, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but his parents were unaware of it, but supposed him to be in the caravan and went a day's journey. And they began looking for him among their relatives and acquaintances. When they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem looking for him. Then after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the teachers, both listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. When they saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us this way? Behold, your father and I have been anxiously looking for you." And he said to them, "Why is it that you were looking for me? Did you not know that I had to be in my father's house?" But they did not understand the statement which he had made to them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth, and he continued in subjection to them. And his mother treasured all these things in her heart.
Crucifixion, how can it be? I can't help but remember everything about him, his whole life, beginning with his birth or even before, the appearance of the angel. I've often wondered if that was a dream, but how else? How else? And the appearance of shepherds and Magi, and then Joseph telling us we'd have to go live in Egypt. The years in Nazareth were pleasant years, happy as a family, quiet, until that one year we went to Jerusalem for the Passover. Jesus was 12, and he had us in quite a stir when we realized he wasn't with us. And then all those questions were brought back. Who was he, this son of mine? What were we to do? I didn't know how to be his mother. When he began preaching, the crowd started following him. I was so proud. But I knew by now he was no ordinary boy or man. He had such wisdom. He had such amazing compassion and love for all those people who were following him. There's always been something about him. But then this week, things got really ugly. We'd heard rumors, and we knew that the Pharisees and the Sadducees were not happy with him. They challenged him on many occasions. But this was different. They arrested him. They had a trial. And now he's being crucified, killed. My son, what could I have done for you?
Jesus is being crucified. It is for our sin that he died. was early, and they themselves did not enter into the praetorium, so they would not be defiled, but might eat the Passover. Therefore Pilate went out to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" They answered and said to him, "If this man were not an evildoer, we would not have delivered him to you." So Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and judge him according to your law." The Jews said to him, "We are not permitted to put anyone to death," to fulfill the words of Jesus which he spoke, signifying by what kind of death he was about to die. Therefore Pilate entered again into the praetorium and summoned Jesus and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus answered, "Are you saying this on your own initiative, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate answered, "I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests delivered you to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my servants would be fighting so that I would not be handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not of this realm." Therefore Pilate said to him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say correctly that I am a king. For this I have been born, and for this I have come into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." And Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" And when he had said this, he went out again to the Jews and said to them, "I find no guilt in him. But you have a custom that I release someone for you at the Passover. Do you wish then that I release for you the king of the Jews?" So they cried out again, saying, "Not this man, but Barabbas." Now Barabbas was a robber. Pilate then took Jesus and scourged him. And the soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head. And they put a purple robe on him. And they began to come up to him and say, "Hail, King of the Jews!" and to give him slaps in the face. Pilate came out again and said to them, "Behold, I am bringing him out to you so that you may know that I find no guilt in him." And Jesus then came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate said to them, "Behold the man." So when the chief priest and the officers saw him, they cried out, saying, "Crucify! Crucify!" And Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and crucify him, for I find no guilt in him." The Jews answered him, "We have a law, and by that law he ought to die, because he made himself out to be the Son of God." Therefore, when Pilate heard this statement, he was even more afraid. And he entered into the praetorium again and said to Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave him no answer. So Pilate said to him, "You do not speak to me? Do you not know that I have the authority to release you, and I have authority to crucify you?" Jesus answered, "You would have no authority over me unless it had been given you from above. For this reason, he who delivered me to you has the greater sin." As a result of this, Pilate made efforts to release him. But the Jews cried out, saying, "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar. Everyone who makes himself out to be a king opposes Caesar." Therefore, when Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the Pavement, but in Hebrew, Gabbatha. Now it was the day of preparation for the Passover. It was about the 6th hour, and he said to the Jews, "Behold your king." So they cried out, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" And Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" And the chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." So he handed them over to be crucified.
a Roman governor. I was sent to this region to keep the peace. But how? When this guy shows up? I had heard about his miracles and healings, his squabbles with his people, and his wife, or my wife, told me to leave him alone, to not harm him. I don't know why she felt compelled, but she said, leave him alone. Do not harm him. You see, I don't mind sentencing people. They come into my chambers on a regular basis. Criminals, thieves, murderers. I have no problem giving them the punishment that they deserve. That's what I do. But this guy was different. He stood before me, just stood there. He didn't beg for mercy. He didn't start whining. He showed no fear. And he answered me straightforward. In a straightforward manner, he answered my questions calmly. He volunteered nothing more than simple responses. And when I looked in his eyes, it was as if he was looking right through me. It was as if I was looking straight into the truth. In the end, I had to do what I had to do. I tried to figure out another way, but this was the only way. So I sent him to his crucifixion.
Jesus is being crucified.
It is for my sins that he died.
they led Jesus away to the high priest. And all the chief priests and the elders and the scribes gathered together. And Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest. And he was sitting with the officers and warming himself at the fire. And now the chief priests and the whole council kept trying to obtain testimony against Jesus to put him to death. And they were not finding any. For many were giving false testimony about him, but their testimony was not consistent. Some stood up and began to give false testimony against him, saying, "We heard him say, 'I will destroy this temple made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another made without hands.' But not even in this respect was their testimony consistent. The high priest stood up and came forward and questioned Jesus, saying, 'Do you not answer? What is it that these men are testifying against you?' But he kept silent and did not answer. Again the high priest was questioning him and saying to him, 'Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One?' And Jesus said, 'I am. And you shall see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven.' Tearing his clothes, the high priest said, 'What further need do we have of witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. How does it seem to you?' And they all condemned him to be deserving of death. Some began to spit on him, and to blindfold him, and to beat him with their fists, and to say to him, 'Prophesy!' And the officers received him with slaps in the face. As Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came, and seeing Peter warming himself, she looked at him and said, 'You also were with Jesus the Nazarene.' But he denied it, saying, 'I neither know nor understand what you are talking about.' And he went out onto the porch. And the servant girl saw him and began once more to say to the bystanders, 'There is one of them.' But again he denied it. And after a little while the bystanders were again saying to Peter, 'Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean too.' But he began to curse and swear, 'I do not know this man you are talking about.' Immediately a rooster crowed a second time, and Peter remembered how Jesus had made the remark to him, 'Before a rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times.' And he began to weep.
Oh my God, please forgive me. Yet how could you forgive me? How could I have done that? How could I have denied I even knew him? He even warned me this would happen. And of course I said, never. And now he's going to die. Could I have done anything to prevent this? I don't know. Oh Jesus, what is to happen now? What will become of us? All of us who have followed you, all of us who have believed you, who believed in you. I'll never forget how you came to me along the lakeshore and asked me to follow you. I would not normally have gone with you. I have my family responsibilities. I have my work. Who would take care of the boat, the nets, my family? But there was something about the way you asked, something about you, and I went with you. I still can't believe that you wanted me to follow you. I'm just a simple fisherman. For 3 years we traveled together. I've listened to all you have told us. You have taught us about God and about God's love for each and every one of us, and so much about God's kingdom, but mostly about God's kind of love and mercy and compassion for other people, all kinds of other people. And then you would confuse us by saying things like, the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. I still do not understand that, but I know you meant it. And I tried so hard to be a good disciple, but I kept making mistakes. The story of my life, and now I've really done it. I denied I even knew him.
Jesus is being crucified.
It is
Therefore the soldiers did these things. But standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. And when Jesus then saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." And he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour the disciple took her into his own household.
Of course I came. How could I not? We've been so close. For 3 years, we all traveled together. I watched him perform miracles. I watched him feed people. I heard him teach. I still can't believe this is how it all ends. What did he do to deserve death by crucifixion? All he did was teach about God, God's kingdom, and about God's love for all people. He even loved the people others found it hard to love. He accepted and loved people like tax collectors, crippled people, and loudmouths, and shy people, and me. And now I am so honored. He has given me the care of his mother. I will do my best.
Jesus is being crucified.
It is for my sin that he died.
from a distance, among whom were Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James the Less, and Joseph, and Salome. And when he was in Galilee, they used to follow him and minister to him. And there were many other women who came up with him to Jerusalem.
Oh no, this just cannot be true. He can't die. He can't die now. Not like this. No, not like this. You know, I remember very clearly when I heard about this guy, that he was a preacher who didn't preach, who didn't condemn, who didn't judge, who didn't have a long list of to-dos and don't-dos. He just taught about love. So, you know, I had to go see for myself. I had to see this for myself. I had to hear this for myself. So I went to the back of the crowd, you know, the back pew where I like to sit, so I won't get noticed. But he looked right through that crowd, right at me. He looked right into my very eyes, and as he looked into my eyes, this whole heart of mine, it began to melt. All that shame, all that guilt, all that self-disappointment and hate. It was like it began to ooze out of every pore of my body. And I began to feel. And I began to feel different and new, like alive. All because he looked at me. He looked at me and loved me. And that's what he did to each of us. He just looked at us, looks right at us, and loves us, just as we are. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it. When you get this new life, when you know you are loved and lovable, I don't know how to explain it. And I really don't understand why they're crucifying him. All because he talked about this place, the kingdom of heaven, like it's some postal address that we can all run away to. But all he talked about was, you are loved and you are lovable. What's going to happen to us?
Jesus is being crucified. 2 others also, who were criminals, were being led away to be put to death with him. One of the criminals who were hanged there was hurling abuses at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other answered and rebuking him said, "Do you not even fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed are suffering justly, for we are receiving what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." And he was saying, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And he said to him, "Truly I say to you, today you shall be with me in paradise."
I am stunned. I am a common thief. I hang here being punished for a life of crime. I somehow knew it would come to this. Yet I'd always hoped that this wouldn't happen. I suppose this simply proves that if you choose my kind of life, this outcome isn't a surprise at all. But this man, Jesus they call him, has done nothing wrong. Why is he being punished? It is clear by the way he acts, the way he speaks, that he doesn't deserve to suffer in this way. I don't even know him, but I can see in his care for his mother and the care he shows for his disciples that he is different. His manner, not yelling or screaming, just there, dying. And then he promised me, a thief, a place in heaven. How can this be?
Jesus is being crucified.
It is for my sin that he died.
ninth hour. At the ninth hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which is translated, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they began saying, behold, he's calling out for Elijah. Someone ran and filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on a reed, and gave him a drink, saying, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down. And Jesus uttered a loud cry and breathed his last. And the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. When the centurion who was standing right in front of him saw the way that he breathed his last, he said, truly this man was the Son of God.
I have seen many men crucified. I've even volunteered for the position because I believe in the sanctity and the strength of Rome. But this time it was different. This man, Jesus, he didn't growl in anger or curse us in pain. Instead, he just comforted his own mother and a criminal next to him. I don't believe he was a criminal, although he was convicted of proclaiming to be the King of the Jews. He was so humble even in his own death. And this part might sound a bit strange, but when he died, it was like there was a charge in the air. And truly, I do believe he was the Son of God.
Jesus is being crucified.
Is it for us